In preparation for cooking the fish tonight, come out, check pellets, make sure we're good. This is a 40-pound hopper, so more than half is good. And it won't take too long to cook those tonight, so I can fill this up when it gets a little lower. Helping this guy up. And I see, I'll zoom out here a little bit. It's pretty dirty. Got some grease soaked all over here. Definitely got some buildup in there. If I get up over, that 375, 400 range, and might have a grease fire here. This was a slower cooked the last time I was on here, which is where all these drippings are from. So I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna clean off the rack, clean off the deflector plate here, the main plates, and there's the actual deflector plate under there, which is fine typically, but I'll take that out and I'll scoop out some of the pellets, which I'll show in just a minute. So I've scraped as much as I really need to off of inside the lid. That's kind of the biggest one. That's where it's going to fall into your food. Up under here as well, I use this is just a Home Depot scraper. HGX. Pretty straightforward. It's a 6-inch. It's kind of nice. Probably do a little smaller. Just help getting some of these nooks and crannies, but just getting the nasty stuff off. None of this is a rust. I know it kind of looks dirty, but it's just smoke colored. This is a stainless steel barrel, which is nice. Had this thing for coming up on 3 years now. Yeah, 3 right now. Just before COVID hit, actually, and it wasn't a COVID purchase. It was just timing. So I'm gonna scrape. I scraped everything off with this inside. It kind of catches everything, the drip pan, and that's kind of nice because I can scrape this into a pile, get it all cleaned up, and I'll put it in a bag. I'll get a little water on my paper towel there, wipe off my probe. Want to make sure that's clean. That helps with temperature management. And then I'm going to take out the drip pan and scrape inside here a little bit. I'm kind of in the way of the sun. Get all of that off of there, and I'm going to leave everything in the barrel for now. It's still cold out. It's nice having that insulation. I just am going to clean out the igniter box, and I'll kind of show that in a minute. So I do have a shop vac specific for in the grill. It's nice because pellets can be ashen and still kind of hot, and it's designed for chimneys, so the chimney vac, and that's kind of nice to use. So I'm not using that today. I'm just doing the old scoop and bag method. Sometimes I'll put it into my paint can out here that I use for the grease drippings, and when that gets full, I hammer the top on, throw it away, and get a new one. But today I'm going to put it in the bag just because of my timing situation, one of the other options I can use. So I've only ever cleaned it this much, this good. I do a lot of high temp cooks. We do pizzas on here at 500 plus. I do salmon on here at 500 plus. I do reverse sear in the summers when it's a little bit warmer out, so it doesn't take so long to get up to 500 plus. Usually takes about 20-25 minutes when it's 30-35 degrees out. Once we start in that 45-50 degrees out ambient temp, it's a little faster, 15 minutes, and that's good enough for a reverse sear. But for now, I'll keep using the Blackstone over there. I do like the flavor of the wood-fired reverse sear on these sear grates that I have, which I'll show you guys a different time. But I do have the sear grates that are nice for that. So this is about as clean as you need to get as far as I've done it. Again, I keep some flavor, which everybody talks about. Oh, don't clean your grill too much. Flavor. I couldn't tell you the difference because I've never done better than this. So this is about it. This is where the real magic happens. I mean, you have your deflector plate, you have your drip pan, and that's kind of doing all of the work, making sure you have pretty much a giant convection oven that's smoky, which is great. I've been using this tool way too much the last 3 years. Thousands of pounds of pellets, so it's been great. So I'm going to clean the probe. I'm going to clean some of this back spray off from the dust. Get everything kind of down in the barrel. Again, I've been leaving the barrel just filling up. I don't use the best pellets all the time. It's just kind of what's available. I bought a pallet once. It was great, but I just had to store it. There just wasn't, for my setup, just wasn't able to do it very well. And so I ended up getting some moisture in some of the bags, losing the bags, the whole thing. So now I just buy it, Menards, Pit Boss, Competition Blend. It's just easier. Get 40-pound bags to have a 40-pound hopper, which is nice. And then, yeah, I get more ash, but again, it's just kind of concealing everything, coating everything, making it hold temp a little bit better, even though it does a really good job. definitely helps having all this ash in there as an insulator. So I'm gonna focus on cleaning off the dust down to the base and then cleaning out my fire pot, which I'll show you some chunks when I'm done with that. So I've cleaned out my fire pot. Not very little in there, just using a standard spoon. There's probably a better method, but it's quick, easy. It's in my kitchen. Something I'm already washing normally. You can see there's a decent amount of dust in here. I mean, definitely ashy. Again, this is a standard, just right off the shelf at Menards. That's local to Minnesota here, but right off the shelf. So it's got some beat up stuff, and it's got more ash in the bag. I don't filter the bag. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't know, we'll call it lazy. So I got a nice chunk here. So you want to do this, I do it about every 20 pounds roughly. It's a 40-pound bag. If I bought and I had the good stuff, I had Lumberjack, and again I bought a whole pallet, I could get all 40 pounds through and have less ash than this. So definitely can run a whole 40-pound hopper with some good pellets that are clean, or if you're gonna do your own filtering, but I don't. So every 20 pounds or so, I get enough to where I could have a problem. I don't want to have a problem, so I like to preemptively not have a problem. It's one thing I do pay attention to. 3 years running, have never had a burn back. I've never had a grease fire or any of those things that some people have with pellet grills or any type of grill. I've been kind of on top of it enough to be dangerous. The only thing I did have once was I had these, I got a bag of pellets that had, I mean, this is like a good length, and up to an inch or something. I had like 2.5-inch pellets. It was crazy. And I was wondering why I was temperature spiking really bad. And it was because it was doing, it's called a pellet bridge. So it's got to break the big one, which it can. The auger can do that. But while it's doing that, and because it's so long, it creates a gap. So that gap creates heat loss, and that heat loss then spikes the temperature because it's trying to catch up. So I got this fancy, PIDD controller saying, hey, I just lost a bunch of heat. I need to dump a bunch of pellets in here to get the heat back up. And so it does that, but you didn't really need it. You just need to keep constant, and so it overcompensates, and your temperatures spike up and down and up and down. And so I found that out when I looked in the hopper and was like, what's going on here? Is it too much dust? Is it this? Is it that? And I started seeing these pellets 2 inches long, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I looked it up, and pellet bridge. So just something to note. Right now I'm just going to clean this off into the bottom, make sure it's not up on the edges so it can't do any smoldering or weirdness up by where the flame is, and put everything back together and get ready to cook. One last note that I almost forgot to do myself, and it is okay, it will prime itself, it will push pellets into there, and it will light them, but it's going to try to light over and over and over and over again when you turn it on, expecting there to be pellets there. So one thing that you should do and can do is prime it. You don't want to put too many in there. I usually do, I have a small hand relatively to a lot of guys, so I put about a handful. Most guys probably do a half handful. Females out there probably could do a full handful. Won't be too much, but it'll get it started. Definitely will start up faster, and you won't be wasting igniter life by just trying to ignite it 500 times as it tries to get pellets in there. So it is a good habit to get into. I almost forgot, so glad I caught myself there.